Today is Palm Sunday in the Christian church, and which is a very auspicious day for humanity. And for those who know about Palm Sunday or don't know about Palm Sunday, this is the Sunday, the week before Christ was crucified, or before his resurrection. And where Christ rides up, Jesus the Christ rides up into Jerusalem on the back of a donkey. And people are cheering him and are just celebrating his arrival, and palm leaves are strewn all over, and people are celebrating with palm leaves this great king's arrival. And the palm leaf, for centuries during these biblical times, represented peace and victory. Now, this donkey is very important, for it signified this little animal, much smaller than a horse, bearing the weight. And Jesus the Christ riding on this donkey that represented humility, this donkey that was never ridden before, this donkey that represented small but mighty, perseverance, and patience. And Jesus the Christ, being the Son of God, the Son of Love, or this God of love, God incarnate, or love incarnate, was victorious, this Prince of Peace, bringing this, ushering in this age of peace and victory in the light. And just to think, a week later, or less than a week later, he is betrayed, and he is crucified and jeered. So, why is this time so very important? Because prior to Jesus, those who sat on the throne, they were kings that won the throne, not just by blood that ran through their veins, but by the blood they shed. It was might make right. It was force sitting on the throne. It was the conqueror over human weaknesses, or who are weaker than, who sat on the throne. And so Jesus, his job was to show a different way, that love is the greatest conqueror. He had to earn the Christ. He went through many tribulations. He went through many catharsis experiences. When he went into the into the desert for 40 days and faced Satan, his brother, It was facing a part of himself. For we all have the darkness and the light, the good and the bad, here in this carnate body, in this physical body. And so he went through everything, all the trials that human beings go through, and he was victorious. He was in the Egyptian schools. He learned from many great masters at the time. And the greatest lessons that he learned or that he experienced was that of where he merged with the soul of humanity. Where he was defenseless. Where he, like Arjuna, who had only Krishna, who chose Krishna, had only his Father, Mother, God. The Son, part of the Trinity. But in this, he was not alone. And many of us feel alone during trials, during temptations. And it's important that not even Jesus was alone. Not even Jesus in his human form could do it, so-called, by himself, by his mortal self. And this way, it brought all beliefs, all religions together. Many of his followers were from the East. Many of his followers were from all over the world. And so here we are. Our ego says, we're the only one who knows the suffering. And this is why God heard everyone's prayers, and why he sent his only begotten Son. Because the cry of humanity of no one understands the trouble I've seen and been through has been cried from the beginning of time to the present. So as we explained earlier, was that, yes, Jesus came to conquer, not by shedding physical blood, but conquering the blood. He conquered all of this, the hate, the force, the willful force, pride, prejudice, all of this, the jealousy. He even conquered death. And we say, human beings say, hey, we can't escape. One thing we can't escape are death and taxes. Matthew was a tax collector. And he, through his transition, through his conversion, through his, and he was a very rich man, very good with money. And through his understanding of what true power is, true love is, it even conquered the taxes. That's why give ye what belongs to Caesar, what belongs to the government. Go ahead and give it. But give ye the treasures of your heart to God. The heart. So when John the Baptist was asked, who is this Jesus? Isn't he your enemy? Because a Pharisee asked him. Because he's doing just like what you are doing. He shouldn't be doing what you're doing. He's, baptizing and washing the people. And John the Baptist said, I am, paving the way for Jesus. That he is my brother. He is the Prince of Peace. He is God. God's love here on earth. He is the King who will conquer and is conquering all the past ideas, the dead thoughts that people had about what life should be, supposed to be, ought to be. He is love. He is the Christ. And I'm not even worthy to tie or to latch his shoes. So if we, human beings, are created in God's image, God's imaging power, and God is love, therefore, aren't we love? Aren't we the Christ incarnate? Aren't we God incarnate? Children of God. And people say, oh, that's blasphemous. But if God is all, and the Christ is all, Christ is love, then what prevents love from being us being love? It's when we separate ourselves from God, thinking God is here, Jesus is there, and I'm here. That's the sin, that's a separation. I'm not good enough. So when we start thinking negative thoughts or thoughts of separation, then we create karma. Then the world reflects to us how separate we are from one another. Then the world starts reflecting to us how much in want we are because we don't deserve. We're not good enough. Now, Jesus, as we said, had help, unseen help, not just from the angelic realm, he had help from the spiritual, all of the spiritual realm, because he was king of that spiritual realm. So Buddha, who brought wisdom to the world, Krishna, who brought joy, peace, and also the truth, who was before Buddha, Jesus, bringing love, creating a threefold flame, so his brothers and sisters that we know in Buddhism, Hinduism, Mohammedanism, Sikhism, all the isms were right here, are right here, were right here. The White Brotherhood making the call. And Jesus had to earn the Christ. And he earned the Christ. When we say Jesus the Christ or the Christ, it is just like saying Jesus the King, Jesus the Prince of Peace. It's a title. Jesus Christ, without the, is what he is. So with all his brothers and sisters, this is why throughout the New Testament, the Samaritans are his brothers and sisters. Everyone is. Even Satan is his brother. So a couple weeks ago, we said there is a dark side to us, or there is a side to us that we try to push away, to keep away, that we don't want to look at, that we fear, the shadow self. And we taught you that the old way was to reject it, to conquer it, to beat it up, all that we fear. But the greatest, the way that Jesus taught was through love. You say, "Be gone," by recognizing it, by embracing it with love. Just like someone in your life. Many people cut people out of their life because that person, doesn't believe what I believe, or doesn't, is a bad person. I'm not saying you have to associate with them. And that isn't what what Jesus was saying or Krishna was saying. In fact, you should be associating with that which you would, like to be. It's not by association that you must associate with the negative, but it's to embrace that they exist in this world of illusion. Love it and let it go. And letting go is the hardest. So this ride into Jerusalem on the donkey is all of this, teaching us to let go. That the burden is light. Let your burden be light. This little donkey was carrying the light. All the baggage, all the heaviness was let go, was transmuted. Not only in a person, in Jesus, but for all humanity. And for this, he was betrayed. For this, he was crucified. But only through the crucifixion could he complete his work. This whole process, so we may be free. Let the truth be told. We are all on a path. But we cannot enter the heavenly fields or hear the true voice of God until we are pure, until we let go the baggage. It is time now to cast out those money changers from our hearts. It's time to cast out the thing sitting on the throne that says we must be this, we must be that. We must have this, we must have that. We must fear this, we must fear that. We cast it out with love, self-love. So that the Christ can abide within us. And once the Christ abides within us, it is for eternal eternities, infinite infinities. And this is when we can hear the truth, the wee small voice of God. This is when we can say, God speaks to us and through us. This is when we are truly free. Free, not only for this lifetime, but forever and evermore. So prepare yourselves for deep level meditation.